When in doubt and darkness, I'm gonna let it shine. When in doubt and darkness, I'm gonna let it shine. When in doubt and darkness, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. When I greet my brothers, I'm gonna let it shine. When I greet my brothers, I'm gonna let it shine. When I greet my brothers, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. When I greet my sisters, I'm gonna let it shine. When I greet my sisters, I'm gonna let it shine. When I greet my sisters, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. When I need an answer, I'm gonna let it shine. When I need an answer, I'm gonna let it shine. When I need an answer, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. With all my daily living, I'm gonna let it shine. With all my daily living, I'm gonna let it shine. With all my daily living, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This big light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This big light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This big light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
I'm not going to do it without Carol's permission.
Now we'll have our vision statement. Say together with me, we are realizing miracles through living our oneness with God and each other. Thank you. Please be seated. Good morning again, and welcome to your Memorial Day weekend at Unity of East Louisville. Welcome if you're home and watching us online too. We know there's some people out there who are watching and enjoying us from home. Excuse me. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here, including two guests today who are on a spiritual journey all across the country in their RV, and it happens to be their 45th wedding anniversary. And so we welcome those guests today. Thanks for stopping by. We hope you stop back by on your way back across the country or zigzagging or wherever you go. Do we have anybody else new here today who hasn't been here before? Anyway, welcome to, oh, we got another guest back there. Thank you. I hope you got a welcome packet and you got a warm greeting when you walked in. Thanks for being here. Thanks to everybody who makes today's service possible. Our ushers and greeters who hopefully welcomed everybody more. Oh, another welcome. She didn't want to be in this. Thank you. It's okay. Some people don't want to be recognized. That's fine. She did. Okay. Welcome to you too. That's just the way to get people not to come back. Be recognized for 10 minutes. Anyway, thank you to our ushers and greeters and our, excuse me, our chaplains and our sound and tech people back there. Excuse me. Wonderful musician Don, who's going to do the special music today too. Yay. And we have Charlie, our very own Charlie Logston here speaking today on the challenges of change, a spiritual perspective. Thank you, Charlie, for doing that. Let's see, we got a couple of announcements. We've got Crystal Bowls coming up again on Friday, June 17th. If you haven't done that, it's very, very wonderful, calming, meditative service. The Crystal Bowls are beautiful. That's the doors open at 6:30, but they start promptly at 7. We have social events sign-ups at the back. If you'd like to, you can still host somewhere if you'd like to choose a venue that you'd like to visit with other people, or you'd like to have people at your home. And if you'd just like to sign up for one, the sheets are at the back.
We also are asking that anybody interested in signing up to read the Daily Word, there's a sheet at the back. If you'd like to even read the Daily Word once a month on the, second or third or whatever week you'd like to do that. Otherwise, you can do it randomly, pick a week to do that. And anything you'd like to volunteer with, just let us know. We have lots of things to volunteer for. Outdoor things, indoor things, children's room. And also, one of our congregants, Shar Malat, has had kind of major surgery in her mouth. And the poor thing is recovering at home. And they've got 4 kids, and so we're taking up a collection. We've taken dinners to them, but we'll have a basket up here during the regular collection. If you'd like to just throw in a couple of dollars, we're going to get some gift cards to take them, just to help with things so the poor dad, he's trying to take care of everything and work. So if we could get them a couple of gift cards, that would be really nice, maybe to some pizza places or something easy to supplement what we're doing. Anyway, I think that's it for the announcements, and I will give you your goofy joke of the week. I was going to tell you a time-traveling joke, but you guys didn't like it, so you get it? You get it? Thank you. Thank you for those who laughed. Now greet each other in love and joy. When you return to your seats, please remain standing. So much love in this room. If you remain standing, don't get comfy in your chair. We're going to remain standing for our congregational song. 100 Ways.
There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. At least 100 ways for me to receive. I embrace my good, and I do believe there are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. At least 100 ways for me to believe, and countless blessings that I now receive. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. My good is coming to me. My good is coming to me.
Good morning. Today's word is comfort. The love in my heart is my comfort. If the sadness of loss diminishes my joy as I think of happy experiences with the loved ones who are no longer with me, I remember that the love we shared will bind us together always. Love can never die. Love, the most beautiful attribute of God, is present always and everywhere. I am comforted as my heart opens to the divine love within me, knowing that this same love enfolds all that I hold dear, no matter where they are on the eternal journey of life. Peace and strength grow in my awareness as I open myself to love's expression. I bless everyone who comes to mind today with a loving thought. I speak a loving word, or I perform a simple act of kindness whenever I can. As I bring comfort to others, I am comforted also. And the scripture is from Psalm 119:76. Let your steadfast love become my comfort according to your promise to your servant. And again, today's word is comfort.
Our Creator, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from error. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of our God is in this place. Surely the presence of God's love is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. There's a holy hush around us as God's glory fills this place. Surely the presence of God's love is in this place.
The presence of each of us is in this place. And as we take this moment to still our minds, our bodies, and our hearts, we remember all of those who are no longer physically on this planet, who have sacrificed their lives to bring us a message of love, a message of peace, and a message to live life with joy and peace as love. So as we remember, we honor every soul that is gathered here today, every soul in our family, our friends, our communities. We are mighty as we raise our consciousness up, as we stand in love for peace and justice. We take that within us and we live it. Show us the way in the silence. And now let us radiate that love. Let us follow the guidance, the path of peace within ourselves, within our lives, within the community. In every soul on the earth, in every corner of the rooms. We stand for love, as love and peace. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen.
How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? How many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? Yes, and how many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many years must a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea? And how many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Yes, and how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? And how many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? Yes, and how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Good morning. Set that water down there. Brought some water up here. I know it's not everybody does that. I have water here because of change. I usually drink coffee, right, all morning. But this morning I had to manage my coffee intake. Now the men, some of the older men here will know why I did that. So that's why I have the water up here anyway. So before I go any further, I would like to thank Tracy and Valerie, Kathy, she's not here today, and Gwen, and anyone else who decided to allow me to speak up here, invited me to speak, because it really is an opportunity for me. And I'm nobody special. I'm not a paid motivational speaker, although I have been paid for speaking. But I know that everyone in this room has a story to tell, and I can learn from each of those stories. I have learned from each of those stories, and I'm looking forward to learning more. But when I accept an invitation to speak on a particular subject, and today is the subject is change, I start out thinking, well, I know quite a bit about that. You know, I can speak about that. That's not a problem. And then, as the time draws nigh, I start thinking, well, maybe not. Maybe I need to learn some more about it. And so I start that little journey, and it always benefits me by that, going and learning more about the subject. I personally benefit from it. And so my hope for today is that I have learned something, through experience or through study, that can help someone in this room at some point, if not right now, at some other time, because we're all on a learning and growing journey. One of my favorite quotes by a New Thought minister, some of you may be familiar with, Eric Butterworth. For those who are not familiar with him, very popular unity minister that held forth in New York City for big congregation, and wrote a number of books. It's well thought of in the New Thought community. One of the things he said in one of his books that stuck with me is, when you think you know the truth, you have lost it. It's something to think about. And I'm talking about the truth with a capital T now. There are great truths that we could reach for. Personally, I don't believe there's any great overarching truth with a capital T. It's ever changing. Some truths don't change, but our perception of truths change. So I've said change 3 or 4 times now already. Another thing that happens to me when I decide to speak about something, I get so deep into it that I see everything in light of that subject nearly. How many of you have ever bought a new car? Yeah? Or a different car? It's happened to me several times. I bought a car and I thought, I really like this car. It's a neat car. And then I start driving my new car, and it seems like everybody in the world owns one of those cars. And what's that about? It's because my perspective has changed about the car. So what is change? Change, a definition, is the act or instant of making or becoming different. And it happens every second of every minute and every hour and every day, and constantly everything is changing. Now, we're aware of some of these things. Like we know, we've all probably we're all aware that our bodies are constantly changing. We're sloughing off old cells, building new cells. We're converting oxygen from the air to oxygen that goes into our blood. So you could go on and on about all the changes that are constantly happening. It's all around us all the time. We're swimming in a sea of change every minute. John F. Kennedy said, "Change is the law of life." I really didn't expect to hear that from John F. Kennedy. He was president when I was a kid, and I know people have thought well of him, and he did some great things, but I didn't expect him to say that. So I'm going to beat on this constancy of change. The only constant is change. Now, some people might take exception and say, well, God is a constant. Maybe. I'm not totally convinced. Some other people think that God is learning through us. I've heard that said. That's come into my consciousness a number of times lately. Well, if God is learning, then God is changing, right? Okay. So maybe that one thing that we held out, well, that never changes. Maybe even God is changing. And as evidence of that, I have here the Bible in Living English. It is a book of change. Think about it for a second. We start off with the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve in there, and they're all innocent and everything. And then change occurs. They get out of the Garden of Eden. And you go through the Bible, book by book, and you see that it is a book about change. Now, it's about other things too, so it's not just about change. But it is majorly, if that's a good word, about change. A book that I've started reading lately, got this at the Goodwill in Destin, Florida. Looking for something to read while we were on vacation. You can't read the title from there, but it says, "The World Since 1945. And I've been working on it for about a month, and you can see I'm not quite halfway through it yet. It's a very scholarly work. It's not one of those things that you can just breeze through. Written by a couple of college professors. It took me a little bit to figure that out, but all the references and notes and everything in here, and then I looked them up. But this is a book about change. Astounding amount of change. I knew some of it, but just a little bit of it, and you start reading something like this, you realize that so many changes occur that you're not aware of. So, how do we perceive change? There are, it seems, limitations on our ability to perceive anything, perceive change, perceive the world around us, which is constantly changing. Okay, I'll try to quit using the word change so much. But we experience change through our senses, seeing, touching, smelling, tasting, all kinds of things. And then we experience spiritual change. And so a couple of examples of that is, and that we don't recognize as necessarily a spiritual change, but maybe they are something to consider when we use language like, "That talk Valerie gave really built me up. I changed spiritually as a result of that talk." Or, "That news is so depressing. that perception changes us spiritually. And there's one other thing that I think is crucially important in reference to change is our thinking, how we think about things, how we educate ourselves about things, which affects the way we handle all life experiences. And these things are not silos. There's not spirituality, there's not sensory perception, and then thinking. They interplay all the time. And to come together to provide a format for our perceptions. One of the New Thought ideas that has stuck with me over the years is change your thinking, change your life. And most of the folks coming here, I believe, buy into that notion that thinking is what we have to work with if we want to initiate change. Now, there's lots of different kinds of changes. Now I'm getting, every time I say that word, I'm going, use that word again. But I can't really help it. So there's big ones. There's death, divorce, job loss. And of course, there are everyday changes. I mentioned some of them. You know, your weight fluctuates, gas prices change, the weather, all the seasonal, the leaves turn brown, fall off the trees, and all that kind of stuff. And we just take that in stride. It's just that's just a normal thing. We have learned to accept that, and it's kind of, you know, like the sun comes up, the sun sets, it just goes on and on. Even though it's change, we're good. We're all good with it because it doesn't seem to have a big effect on us. But then we get into those other ones. Divorce. I haven't experienced that one. Come pretty close a couple times, but never quite got there. You know, job loss, being fired, been there, done that. And death, the death of loved ones. That's a biggie. And but then there's also marriage. That's a big change. I know lots of folks out here are or have been or are planning to be married. And I come up on young people now and then. When I say young people, I use these terms loosely, young and old. To me now, I kind of accept that I'm old, but really old people are like, you know, older than me. And young people or people younger. I tell people all the time, my young friends. Well, guess what? My young friends are in their 50s. So it's all about that perception. But every once in a while, I come up on somebody on the beach one time. Margie and I were in Florida, and we walked out to the beach, and there was a bunch of young guys out there, and they were having a party. They were drinking. They were smoking big cigars. I'm like, that's odd. What's going on here? So I got to chatting with them. Well, it was kind of a bachelor party, like. One of them was getting married. I think the next day, wasn't it, honey? Yeah. I'm saying honey to the lady in blue camouflage there. So I got chatting with him, and I got to talk to the girl. I said, well, who's the groom? Who's the groom? They pointed out to him. I went over and started talking to him. I said, listen, I've been married for a long time. At that time, we've been married about 45 years. And we just were married 50 years last week. But thank you so much. People have been so congratulatory, and really we're deserving of it because you know, hasn't been the most smooth sailing through the 50 years all the time. We hit some storms. But so I looked at the young man and I said, you know, I've been married for a long time. I told him how long we've been married. I said, and really, when I see young people getting ready to embark on that journey, I like to give them, you know, talk to them a little bit about adjustments they're going to have to make. I said, you know, when you start living with your new wife, you know, there's going to be some adjustments to be made. He's nodding his head. I said, but don't worry. Only the first 20 years are the hardest. And every time I do that, the guy goes. He has that look on his face like I had on my face right after I said I do. Like, what? What did I do? But I like to use I started to use some other people as examples of when people accept and grow through change and when people don't. And I thought, well, you know, okay, I could do that. That might work. But I thought, well, why don't let's bring it a little closer to home and use myself as an example. For those who don't know, and many do know, this building right here was built as a Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses. And for those who don't know, I was a practicing Jehovah's Witness for quite some time. My wife and I both were. And at a certain point, and it built for a while, I came to realize that I didn't want that to be part of my journey anymore. I'm not going to be condemning Jehovah's Witnesses here because I learned a lot of good things from that group of people. But certain things bothered me, and I suppressed them for a long time and just tried to journey on. And just got to the point where I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. I have to change. And so I decided I wasn't going to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. For those of you who have not embarked on a fundamentalist journey at any time in your life, maybe some of you have, it can be pretty tough to break away from. Some fundamentalist groups in particular, and Jehovah's Witnesses happen to be one of those. But I decided I had to do it. I had to move on, so I did. I quit coming to the meetings. 5 meetings a week is what Jehovah's Witnesses do. Now, they do combine a couple of them, so you only have to actually come 3 times. And it was life changing. I had very little of a support group other than the friends at the Kingdom Hall. And so I had that to deal with. My life partner wasn't really on board. She wanted to continue being a Jehovah's Witness. That made some fundamental changes in the way we related and interacted. Turning loose of the fundamentalism made some fundamental changes in my marriage on a day-to-day basis. So I was totally unprepared. All I knew was I wanted out. And I had spent no time really preparing. Fortunately, I did have family members who were not Jehovah's Witnesses, so you know I could still talk with them. And so it wasn't as if I had absolutely no support group, but not much of one. That was painful for a long time. And eventually, Margie decided that she had enough too. I don't know how else to put it. And so she joined me, and we didn't do anything, or I didn't, for a long time. She liked to listen to Deepak Chopra, other folks. I didn't do anything on a, well, I probably did something, but I wasn't on an actual serious pursuit of spiritual values at that time. And so I've had a long time to think about that. That all happened about 20 years ago, right around there. So I've had a lot of time to think about it. And so I've actually tried to get to what was the good of that. And that's often what we have to try to do with things that are tough, changes that are tough. They're like gut punches. Now, many of you have probably never been punched in the gut, but I think you know what I mean. It's like, I can't breathe. We had that happen in our family not long ago. One of our family members, my daughter-in-law, her father died from COVID. And she said that at one point. She said, I feel like I can't breathe. And it was such a terrible and sudden change thrust upon her. And these things are coming. And some of them have happened to you already, and they've happened to me. And guess what? There's more coming. As long as we're alive, there's more coming. And some changes are great. You know, they're fantastic. I got a raise. I got this. I got that. But I'm talking about the ones that that seems like they're sucking the life out of you. So what can we do about it, really? It's coming. It's the law of life, as JFK said. Well, we can. There are things we can do. We'll never prepare so well for change that it won't hurt us. We wouldn't be human. But we can learn about change and prepare for change, and maybe we can move through it with a little more grace and ease than we would be able to otherwise. So what can we do? Well, I reference Stephen Covey a lot of times over the years when I've been speaking. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You guys familiar with that book? Yeah, great book. He talks about sharpening the saw in his book. And so what's the saw? My saw goes from right here to the floor. That's what I've got to work with, including what's in here, my brain, the seat of our thinking. So we have to sharpen the saw by taking care of the one tool that we have, that's our body, and we have to sharpen the saw by being aware of and practicing improving ourselves spiritually and mentally. How you do that? Well, everybody knows how to take care of the body. That doesn't mean we do it, but yeah, we know how to do it mostly. You know, I mean, how many more times can somebody say calories in versus calories out? You know, it's just, we know it. It doesn't mean that we totally practice it perfectly. Spiritually, what can we do? Prayer. Unity is all about prayer. It was founded on prayer. That gets us more connected to the God within us and to the God of the universe, the power and intelligence of the universe, so we can pray. And I mean a practice of prayer, not just prayer when something bad happens. That's okay. That's okay. I've done it. There was a time in my life when I thought I was going crazy, and I repeated the 23rd Psalm to myself over and over. And probably most of you are familiar with that. Yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, et cetera, et cetera. And it helped me. It was like an affirmation. Meditation. There are different forms of meditation. I have practiced transcendental meditation for many years, although I didn't tell the witnesses I was doing it. Or that I had ever done it. And then the last few years we've been, Margie and I have both been regular practitioners of meditation. Sometimes I fall asleep, but that's okay. And studying the different aspects of change. There's a lot of good information out there. When I was preparing for this talk, something interesting happened. I hadn't done any preparation for it really in the last week, and I thought, gosh, I gotta give Valerie and him something, a title or something. And so I'm like, okay, and it just came to me. The Challenges of Change, a Spiritual Perspective. I said, that sounds good. I can work with that. And so that was the title of the talk. And then when I started thinking about it, I thought, okay, now I got to kind of flesh this out. So I was telling Lavina so I went to my second brain. Do y'all know what my second brain is? Lavina got it right away. Who knows what my second brain is? Anybody? Google. That's my second brain. So I thought, well, okay, I know that answers are only as good as the question you ask. So what keywords should I put in here in this Google search? So I just put the title of my talk, The Challenges of Change, a Spiritual Perspective. Boom, up popped a book by a New Thought writer. Had every word in the title that I had in the title of my talk. I'm like, okay. So I bought the book on a Kindle and I read it, and it wasn't suitable to present that whole book as a talk, but I got some ideas out of it. And so if you want to look that up, it's I wish I'd written the whole title down. It's kind of a long title. But if you look for the challenge, if you put in the title of my talk, The Challenges of Change, a Spiritual Perspective, it'll pop up. And her last name is Renee. It's a good book. She has a five-step way of working through change. Okay, so I think I've established that life is ever changing. It's not going to stop changing. We don't want it to stop. Because when it stops changing, we have taken our last breath. And the afterlife is a whole other subject. But so it's going to happen whether we like it or not. So in order to grow spiritually, and isn't that why we're here? To grow? It seems that is the purpose of life, is to continue to grow. If there is one single purpose, if you can name one single purpose, it's to grow spiritually. So to do that, we have to get beyond resistance to change, not liking change. Change is going to happen whether we like it or not. So we have to get beyond not liking it to acceptance of change. Even these really hard changes, somehow we have to get to some level of acceptance. Then we can begin to see the good possibilities that can come from change. Because there's always a nugget, something in there. And somebody's like, how can it be? How can it be that someone I loved is gone from me now? How can any good be extracted from that? Well, one thing that I've thought of is my father died relatively young. I was in my 30s, and he was my role model. He was the most influencing adult figure in my life ever. I think Margie has supplanted him now, has taken his place. But he was, and he died, and it was devastating to me. But I had to grow, and so where's the good from him dying? Well, one good is that there were things that I wanted to talk to my dad about, but I didn't. And I learned you can't put things off forever. So that was a piece of good that came from it. So we have to grow to liking it, understanding that there can be good from any change, and grow to new levels of expressing our divinity into this world. So, in closing, I'd just like to quote Lester Holt of Nightly News on NBC. Sometimes he says things, and I go, that's just a lie, Lester. But so I don't always do that. But he says something I really like at the end of his nightly news broadcast, and that is, take care of yourselves and each other. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Charlie. That was fantastic. We really appreciate the chuckles, too. And along the same lines of change, there's another meaning for change, and it's the kind you put in a giving basket. So if anybody has any change that they want to put in the giving baskets when they come by, we really appreciate it. And we can continue spreading our message of love and unity in the world with your change and change. So now it's time to take your blessing, the offering, in your hand. I'm looking for, there it is. And we're going to say the blessing of our offering together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And this basket up front is for Charmelot's family. Thank you.
Glows by the front door. Don't forget the keys under the mat. When childhood stars shine, always stay humble and kind. Go to church 'cause your mama says to. Visit grandpa every chance that you can. Won't be wasted time. Always stay humble and kind. Hold the door, say please, say thank you. Don't steal, don't cheat, and don't lie. I know you got mountains to climb, but always stay humble and kind. When the dreams you're dreaming come to you, when the work you put in is realized, let yourself feel the pride, but always stay humble and kind. Don't expect a free ride from no one. Don't hold a grudge or a chip, and here's why. Bitterness keeps you from flying. Always stay humble and kind. Know the difference between sleeping with someone and sleeping with someone you love. I love you ain't no pickup line, so always stay humble and kind. Hold the door, say please, say thank you. Don't steal, don't cheat, and don't lie. I know you got mountains to climb, but always stay humble and kind. When those dreams you're dreaming come to you, when the work you put in is realized, let yourself it's hot, eat a root beer popsicle. Shut off the AC and roll the windows down. Let that summer sunshine always stay humble and kind. Don't take for granted the love this life gives you. When you get where you're going, don't forget, turn back around and help the next one in line. Always stay humble and kind.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. And so we give thanks for these gifts of love, of light, and we see them moving in and through each of us into the world as that love. And so it is. Amen. Our prayer chaplains, if you'll please come forward, are here to pray with you. I guess Margie's on duty today. So they'll be here in the front after the service. She will be. Now, if we'll stand for our prayer for protection, then we'll have our children come in and sing them in together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. So it is. And we'll sing, and our children will catch up with us when they get here.
You are walking as the light, as the light, as the light. You are walking as the light of God. As the light, 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 as the light of God. You are walking as the love, as the love, as the love. You are walking as the love, as the love of God. As love, as the 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 love of God. You are walking as the joy, as the joy, as the joy. You are walking as the joy, as the joy of God. As the joy, 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 as the joy of God.
So that was for the kid and all of us, and we bless all the children wherever they are on this beautiful summer day. And now for the peace song.